Everybody here for the most part? Everybody walking home with them? Oh. Oh my God. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to, we do have quite a bit of time here, but I'm going to be a little bit more informal today, just because we're in the classroom space, so it does a little different feel. But thank you for coming in today. We're going to be talking about a few different topics here, mainly officer transition. With that, we're going to touch a little bit on recruitment and retention for your organization, and then we're going to talk about branding and how that kind of all ties back into everything that you're doing with these other two things. So today we're calling this session Catching Fire. Ebony made that up, not me. So we're here on day 2, so let's start. So good morning. For those who don't know me or who wasn't here yesterday, my name is Tane Lee. I actually currently serve as the Executive Director of Student Engagement and Leadership at West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia, and so I'm really privileged to be here today to speak with you all about some things that you want to learn about. And so, why are we here, right? And so you guys are, you read your description and say, hey, I want to go to officer transition, I want to go to some things. But really, it's why is it important to have an officer transition plan? Like, so when you transition from year to year, why is that important? So we're going to talk about that. Hopefully, you're going to be able to develop a consistent brand identity for not only you but your organization. So we're going to talk about branding and how that kind of leads to some of the things and how you kind of select new members and recruit new members and stuff like that. Retention. So how do we keep our members? There's a lot of times there could be some fluctuation in your membership, and that could be tying back to kind of what you're doing, whether you're delegating, kind of your brand identity to the campus, and even your brand identity internally as well, that we're going to talk about. And then hopefully you can develop some kind of recruitment plan. And so, who in here struggles to recruit in here? What organization are you with?
Drama Club.
Drama Club, okay. Anybody else? The rest of your organization kind of more institutionally based, like where they're coming out of different offices. What organizations are here? Go Saints, what is that?
It's our spirit.
Spirit, okay.
Connect for traditions.
Traditions, okay.
Merrill Student Government.
Knowledge, MSU.
Student government.
Okay,
All that and extra lines.
okay,
Oh, thanks.
okay,
Same.
Awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So RA and 5A Orlando.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
The red line.
Red life, okay.
RA and Livingston Alliance.
Okay.
Red line.
Red life.
Gospel choir.
Gossip art? Oh,
Best buddies.
what's best buddies?
It's basically one-on-one friendships with an adult with disabilities or like that.
Oh, okay, cool. And you said
Drama Club.
Drama Club?
I'm just kind of here.
You're just kind of here? Cool.
Drama Club.
Cool, so, yeah, so it sounds like some of you all are kind of tied to the institutional organization, and some of you guys are actually leading some of the organizations. Just to kind of give you a historical preference, I used to actually advise my CAP from my previous school at USC Charlotte, and those were probably some of the best years of my life, so in this professional world. But yeah, hopefully you can develop some kind of recruitment plan for those that need it. Res Life, I mean, you do want to recruit good RAs, but that's kind of like extended by your housing recruitment and retention plan. So before we jump into recruitment, I actually want to start, and then we're going to shift focus to this presentation. This airplane is really cool, by the way. We're going to talk about personal and professional branding. I really like to lead off with this because I think it makes a lot of sense to start out with a lot of things. And I think this inherently, will tell you about your organization, tell you about yourself, and tell you about some of the things that you really need to look for in an organization. So, what comes to mind when you see these logos? Anybody?
Name recognition.
name recognition, you said money? Why did you say money?
Well, spending is expensive.
Those are the most expensive it seems, maybe? What else? He said
Zelda.
Zelda?
Got Nintendo up there?
Okay. I get that, yes.
I think just established.
Established? Okay. Any other words come to mind when you see these logos? Some of you guys probably had some this morning, Starbucks, or you can have it on campus all the time. No other words come to mind when you see these? So when I see these logos, I think of, yes, established, I think of national brand. I also think of quality, because I really do think that, well, at least I believe, and it's based on your perception, that these are quality brands, and they're well trusted. So here you go. So what about these catchphrases? What do you think about? So what's the first one? Think outside the bun. Does anybody know what brand that is?
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, okay. What about It's in the Game?
EA Sports.
Okay. What about Just Do It? Or That Was Easy? Staples. All right. What about You Are Now Free to Move About the Country?
That's what they tell you when you got with TSA.
Close. It's an airline. Southwest. It's Southwest. Yeah. I actually flew Southwest here, so I heard you when I was here. So coming here. What about It Gives You Wings? Okay. So why were you able to identify the brand names associated with these like catchphrases? Capitalism. Okay. Did you get good advertising? Okay. Do you think it's attached to their brand, their identity?
Repetition more than anything else.
Repetition, so large marketing plans, and you know. And
The
so-
more you're exposed to it.
The way you're exposed to it
Yeah.
through media.
The more you see it, the more you know it.
Yeah. The more you see it, the more you hear it, the more you ingest it, right? So for me, these logos and these catchphrases all tie to your brand. And simply put, your brand is what a person thinks of when he or she or they hear your public or your brand name. It's everything the public thinks it knows about your name brand, offered both factual and emotional. So whether or not you want to believe of this company, whether they're capitalists or whether they are a quality brand name or whether they're whatever, that's their brand. So the brand that they have exists in your mind and your mind only. So your thoughts about that company, that brand is within your mind. So your brand name exists objectively. People can see it, it's fixed, but your brand exists only in someone's mind. Have you ever thought about brand like that? Like, you want people to understand who you are as a person, who you are as an organization. But that all ties back to branding. So if I were to ask you guys a question, like, if I go around these tables right here, would you guys have all the same branding perspectives of each organization in here? So if I were to say, let's start off, and I don't want to call anybody organization out, I don't want to call anybody out, but what if I were to name like organization A? Would you think there would be kind of a divergent to good morning? So a concept of that brand, you know? So like, how do you want your brand to lay in people to live in your peers' minds on this campus? So MSG, CAV, you know, Drama Club, when you hear those names, what comes to mind? That's your brand, you know? So that for me is important. So branding is merely just a collection of ideas, images that connect to a symbol, a name, an image, whatever. So what's the organization known for? Is it a creative slogan? Is it an image? And hopefully when you say your organization, what do you think about? You know, what do you think about internally? Is it consistent throughout your members? So if I were to ask and I think about MSG and CAB because I work in your spaces, if I say MSG to everybody in your organization, would they say the same things? Is the image and the brand consistent? Are you guys on the same page about those kind of things? regardless of what you believe your organization is, perception is everything. It is. Perception is reality for these people in your brand. So if you had some kind of social media scandal, or you're on social media and one of your organizational members does something bad, it affects the whole community, your organization. Do you guys have Greek life on campus? No Greek life on campus. But when I say the word Greek life, what comes to mind? What are some words? What are some words about Greek life that come to mind? Huh?
Fraternity and sorority.
Fraternity and sorority. Yeah. What else? What other words come to mind?
Parties.
Parties. Okay. What else?
Hazing.
Hazing. Mm-hmm. Drama. Okay.
Rich.
Rich. Exclusive. Okay. So those are things that are already in your mind. So think about how these fraternity sororities now have to combat those perceptions. No matter how much good they do, no matter how much they do on the community side, the philanthropy side, those images will always reside in your mind. So how do you change that perception? So it's hard, right? Because the moment your organization gets a bad rap for something, you have to now combat that perception, which is your brand, in their mind. If I say CAB and you say program on campus, free, fun, those are great things. But how do you keep that consistency? And so you really have to think about it. And I think it really pertains to this question right here. How are you actively branding your organization? How? What are you guys doing other than posters or social media? What are you doing to actually brand your organization? Anybody can answer. No?
Social media.
Social media? But what specifically on social media?
Posting.
Just posting about your events?
Yep.
But how does that set you apart?
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
It's just drama related stuff instead of ad related stuff.
Okay. Are you using hashtags? How do you actively brand your organization? You're quiet. Are you branding your organizations on this campus? What do? You shake your head.
It's like by the events you host, that sets like a tone for your organization. The things you put out there, rather that be like digital signage, like your digital sign, like when McDonald's have their things out, they put their M on cups, they put it on bags. So if the trash does fly out places, people see that brand through their commercials, the text of their commercials, through almost everything is intentional, and that's the way we should be as an org. Sometimes we're not intentional, and that's where the confusion starts. But
Yeah.
we should try to be.
Absolutely. Essentially, yes. Go ahead.
So for docents, our hashtag and our tagline is invited to your friend.
Yeah. I thought one of your commercials was really cute, where you guys shot Peter with the Nerf gun or something like that. Oh, never mind. You'll see that video later. I'm sorry. They showed it to me earlier. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Never mind. You'll see it later. My fault. I just feel like I just gave up Game of Thrones. Spoiler alert. Sorry. But yeah, that's really good. So you have a hashtag that people will know you for, right? Are you doing consistent intentional messaging about your organization out there? I think it's really important. CAB, you're one of those organizations. Just because you're free and you have fun events, there still has to be some kind of branding to that message. That was one thing that I was really particular about when I advised our campus activities board, because you can't just rely on your foundational base. How are you recruiting new people to come to your events, new members to volunteer for your organization, new members for your potential officers? Because if you're creating that brand, it's gonna be very, very cyclical, right? So you're attracting the kind of people you want in your organization, and then hopefully those people become your new membership and become your new officers at some point. So I think it's very cyclical. However, I do think this next question, take a quick detour. How are you actively branding yourself? how does that affect your organizational branding?
I mean, the way that your disposition around others, like if you generally have like a great like disposition, but then like something like stressful happens to you, then like you're not able to like handle it, like you're not being emotionally stable about it, then people are gonna see you like, oh, like they can handle this, and like they're part of this organization, and then like if they're like this, and like other people in that organization might also be like this, so that might not be something that I want to be a part of.
Exactly. What else? How are you actually branding yourself? Because you all want jobs, right, after you leave. So I know you're doing something to brand yourself. But is that brand consistent with the organizations that you're a part of? I'm asking some questions that I want you to really think about. So how does your social media look? How do you present yourself on campus? How do you speak to people? What networks are you creating? And when you do create those networks, how are you nurturing those networks and those relationships? That's all part of your personal branding. I'm not saying you have to dress up every day. I'm not saying you have to wear slacks and polos or slacks and button-ups and ties and bow ties, all those kind of things. You can do those things, but I don't think that's necessary unless that's part of your personal brand. Because I really do think everything reflects back to your personal brand. You know? Now I'll be very honest, like I think, you know, when I'm out there, you know, there are a lot of things that people don't know about me. But when I do put myself out there, you know, I'm very intentional about what people know and what people don't know. So is it smart to kind of be slandering, you know, certain organizations or certain people on social media, especially how it reflects to maybe who you're a part of? You know, those kind of things. Oh, well, I keep my stuff private. You know, who in here keeps their social media private? Does anybody? Some people do. Oh, there's ways around that. Just by the way, there are actually companies that they hire. They can go into your social media and find what you post, and that actually does affect people. We actually have at our university, we actually have an HR person dedicated to social media, to reviewing social media for our new hires. So that is reality. So that matters to companies that are hiring you. And so I want you to think beyond these spaces. Like that's really important because, you know, don't get me wrong. Like when I mentioned Greek life, I am a member of a fraternity, and so I have to now combat those negative stereotypes about being in a fraternity. Because I'm also in a fraternity that's a lifelong commitment. So beyond the undergraduate experience, I am still very active. I'm actually the president of my alumni chapter in Morgantown, West Virginia. And when I say who I am, all those negative connotations get put on me. And so now I have to kind of combat those things. And so understand that you have to now carry those weights in the organization as well. So you're no longer just, what's your name? You're no longer just Michelle. You're now Michelle from Connect. You know? And so how do you now carry those burdens that may come with Connect? I'm not saying Connect has a bad reputation or anything like that, but what if something didn't happen? Now you have to now answer those questions. You know, I'll be very honest. There was a young man that passed away in California earlier this year from supposedly a hazing incident with my fraternity. Do you not think everybody started asking me questions about that? I don't know what's happening in California, but now I have to combat that. So think about it. Everybody in your organization contributes to your brand, no matter how good, no matter how bad, no matter how different they are. Okay? So professionalism, let's talk about that. What does professionalism look like? Everybody's professionalism, definition is very different. What does it look like? What do you guys think? You're not gonna talk. I know it's early, so I have my liquid caffeine. What does professionalism look like? Is it the way you dress? The way you talk?
All of it.
All of it? Describe it. What does professionalism look like to you?
Like, just not being like mature and
Not being mature, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Like in emails, like having like a subject line, proper grammar and structure, and like a closing, like either your name, email, or like your email, phone number, address for you to reach out to afterwards.
yourself in a manner that has a level of confidence that shows they can get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of my peers tend to, say we have to code switch when we talk to certain people. You know, I don't believe and so I'm probably I'm probably on the minority side. I don't believe in code switching. I believe who you are is who you are. And, if who you are is a little unrefined, then I think you need to work on some of that refinement. You know, I don't think we have to code switch between our conversations between different people. I think you are who you are. Because the moment you step outside of your own identity, then you start to kind of lose your identity at that point. Because you're a different person in front of everybody, so who are you really? You know? I think professionalism I think it partly is in your dress, but I don't believe that's everything to do with it. Because if you look at companies like Google, they really don't have a dress code. But would you say Google is unprofessional? I wouldn't say so. You know, I think tone and conversation, I think tone and email messages are very important. And that's also part of your personal branding. So who in here has their organization in their signature? Exactly. Whether you send a personal message or a professional message, guess what? That organization is now tied to you in your messaging. And so if you just send a quick message, and it's, of course, hopefully you all know we don't type like we speak. You type in English, you know, with proper grammar. Now, grammatical mistake, there may be some here and there, but I mean, the intentionality about it is very, you know, don't just send a text, don't email like you text either. And be careful about what you're texting as well. You know, these things can be, you know, how do you screenshot the hit button, middle button? That can float, I promise you. So be careful with that. Group me's, all that is part of your professionalism. You can't hide from it. You just can't. So as young people, be mindful of these things, okay? All right. So the rest of it is marketing. I'm not gonna touch the marketing, but I'm gonna go back to recruitment and retention real quick. And we're gonna finish out these slides here. So I just wanted to touch on professionalism and kind of your personal branding, because I think it really ties to what we're doing here today. And I want you to really think about that. So let's go straight into recruitment. So part of it is, my question is, why would people want to join your organization? So what are you doing to make people want to join your organization? What does your organization do? Can you tell others what your organization does? So if I were to ask each one of you guys about what your organization does, can you do that in 30 seconds? You think you can? And also you gotta think about how is your organization different from others. So what is your group's identity? Right, we talked about brand and identity, right? What are your benefits of your membership? So whether it's free membership, do you have membership dues? Do you make new friends? How does this operate in the job continuum? Like, how do you get jobs? What leadership opportunities are available? How can a member get involved with their organization? So we're gonna spend about the next 5 minutes or so. I really want you to focus on this, because we're gonna create elevator pitches. So I want you all to take these questions, and within a 30-second elevator pitch, I want you to be able to tell me about your organization. Okay, so we're gonna do this twice. So the first time, I'm only gonna give you 2 minutes to create your 30-second elevator pitch to the group here about your organization. Okay, now this is individual right now. I know there's some people that are in the same organization, but I want to see if there's consistent messaging in here. Okay? All right, you have 2 minutes to work on it, and your time starts now. And I want you to address all these questions here. share? So, who wants to share their elevator? Yes, go ahead.
So 5A Lambda, it's new we started it last, so it'll be brand new.
Okay.
But it's a business organization that provides networking, competition, and experience in the business world. So it's different than other groups because you get like the competition aspect of the business world, and so you're competing with people all over the state and nation. You get discounts for different corporations, you make new friends. We have a really small state chapter, so you really learn everybody that's in the organization. You network experience, and then there's lots of opportunities to be on an exec board either at our school or like state or national level.
Okay. Went over about 15 seconds. How much time?
Does that have to be 10 seconds?
30 seconds.
30.
You gotta be concise. Thinking about being concise. I mean, I think it's, of course it doesn't have to be 30 seconds. I want you to get your elevator's pitch as concise as possible. You know, because a lot of times you're speaking to people in passing. You know, so you're like, hey, or you may be at an organizational fair, or you may be sitting beside somebody in class really quickly, like, hey, what organization are you in again? I saw you the other day, and that's your opportunity to kind of do your pitch. Okay. Who else wants to go next? Yes, you go ahead. Ready?
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready for you. All right.
All right, tell me when.
All right, go.
At Drama Club, we perform 2 plays a year, 1 a semester. It's free to come, and if acting isn't your speed, we can always use help with costumes, props, lights, sound, hair, and makeup. Students are able to direct as well as be in charge of those other aspects of the field. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good people here. You should come.
18 seconds. Pretty good. So who here, if they would have heard that spiel, would be interested to research a little bit more about Drama Club? Maybe a few? Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
She's like, I'm inside, shut up.
Who else wants to share? Somebody from every group want to share? Like I want to hear from Latinx. Yes.
Ready?
Yeah, ready.
So Latinx Alliance is to share Latin culture with the Brazilian community, so it's creating a safe environment for students to share their ideas. We also focus on retaining and recruiting Latin students to attend college, as well as giving opportunities to grow academically, socially, and in leadership.
Okay. 19 seconds. One thing I want to also emphasize is making sure that you're emphasizing, like, as a member, if they were to get involved, what are their opportunities, you know? So making sure that, hey, if you're a part of our organization, here are the benefits, or here's kind of what we would like for our volunteers or our new members to kind of experience. So making sure you're kind of talking about that. And a lot of times you can tie that back to personal experience, you know? Especially once you get into that, like, really deep conversation about your organization. I think those are really important to share. All right. So I'm not gonna put everybody on the spotlight. I was just gonna say everybody gonna share, just get everybody on to be ready. But yeah, thank you. So like, I think it's really important for us, and I think this is part of your recruitment, it's a part of creating your identity and your brand, is that if I ask, you know, if I ask 3 people in the same organization, will their message be consistent? Does it have to be the exact same message? No, because your experience is gonna be different, but you're at least on brand and your messaging about what your organization is and isn't about. So knowing your mission, vision, and values, you know, talked a little bit about that yesterday in our presentation in the morning. So yeah, so be consistent with your branding and take the people that you want, all right? So, next, I think it's really important to create a recruiting plan. Who here in your organization actually has a recruiting plan? So nobody, okay, good. So this slide is really beneficial. So, I think it's really important for your organization to make sure you're creating a recruitment plan. If your goal is to recruit new members, volunteers, whatever it may be for your organization, if you're recruiting in any form, because you're not going to be here forever. Your time is finite here. It's 4 years, 5, some people 6. I don't know. I'm not the judge. But your time is finite. So how are you going to make sure that you're recruiting new people to take your place at some point? I think number 1, set goals. Decide upon who, what, when, and how you would like to recruit. And so are you going to recruit for a week, a couple days, a month? Are you going to recruit year round? You know, I know CAB recruits, well, at least the CAB that I used to advise used to recruit year round. I'm sure MSG does as well. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And so I think it's really important to determine when, who. So who are you trying to attract? What types of volunteers, what types of members are you trying to recruit? You know, I think that's going to help. You know, are you looking for more experienced folks? Are you looking for kind of the new blood of like maybe the freshman or first year class? You know, so if you're looking at more first year class students, now how do you get in front of those students? I think that's important. Do y'all have a freshman leadership program, freshman seminar classes you have to take here? So maybe you talk to your professors about getting in front of those classes and talk about your organization to them. You know, there's different opportunities of being getting in front of those different audiences. And maybe there's like another organization that are very that's different from you, but has people that you like really respect. Maybe you can start recruiting in those organizations. Say, hey, like we really like the MSD folks. Do you mind if we come talk about our organization in front of you? And maybe some of your members could eventually maybe look at our organization as well. Because believe it or not, I actually have a lot of crossover between like our SGA and our CAB because I advise both, and so they love being in both. And so looking at that. And then how. I think the how is critical. Are you doing tabling? You know, if you are doing tabling, how are you getting that messaging out? Are you doing interest meetings? Are you doing some social events? Whatever events you're doing, you're making sure those are marketed properly, you know, and consistent in your branding and how you put that out there. Because if you just put it on social media a couple times a day, do you think people are really going to see that? More than likely not. You know, any marketing majors in here? No. So there's actually a theory out there. Do you guess how many times it really takes for a person to see a poster or some kind of message and it actually resonates with them or they actually retain it? 10. That's pretty close. It's between 7 and 10. So if you post it one time on social media, and maybe once a day for a week, when your social media is flooded, you really think they're going to see it 7 to 10 times to actually remember, oh yeah, I want to go to that meeting that the drama club's having on Tuesday night. You know, like you have to be consistent in messaging. So posters, I don't know if you allow posters on your campus, digital signage, you know, making sure that your stuff is out everywhere. You know, you have to canvas your entire campus in some form. Or if you want it to be very, you know, private and more like invitational based, then make sure that messaging is part of your recruitment plan. Okay. You want to, like I said, you want to brainstorm methods to reach recruitment goals. You want to incorporate some kind of theme. You know, kind of like how this whole retreat institute is based on Hunger Games. You know, just kind of a fun theme. Maybe you can have some kind of fun theme for like your recruitment period. That's really cool. Number 3 is understanding your budget resources. You know, yeah, it's cool to have these elaborate ideas and these elaborate like kind of marketing schemes, but if you don't have the budget, you don't have the budget. You're like, hey, we want to have ice cream on the plaza, and then you realize, man, ice cream is like $2 a thing, and you're trying to buy it for 100 people. That's $200 automatically. So do you have $200 within your organization to be able to spend that for recruitment purposes? So it's up to your organization to kind of set aside those resources to make sure that you can actually recruit. Create a calendar for people to see. So if you're having multiple recruitment events, maybe it's important that you put out those details in a calendar form. And then you want to delegate tasks. You know, you shouldn't be the only person, or the recruitment chair shouldn't be the only person doing all the recruitment activities. It is a team effort. You know, delegate tasks to make sure people feel involved, people feel invested in that process of recruiting new members. Because everybody in your organization should be a recruiter. Like, oh, I'm the president, I don't have to recruit anybody. I have a recruitment chair for that. No, it's part of your job as well. Your brand is out there just like the recruitment chair's brand. And so you need to make sure that people are delegating and actually taking some responsibility of that. And then, of course, implement your plan. And then once you go through that cycle, evaluate that plan. Assess it. You know, have an honest conversation with the organization. How do you think it went? Did we attract the people that we really wanted to see? You know, did we reach our goal? And then reevaluate it, and then go through, recreate your recruitment plan for the next cycle, and go through the steps again, evaluate it, and keep getting better. And every year, your recruitment plan should be a little bit different because you're constantly improving your process, okay? It's important. We have to be able to evaluate ourselves. That's an important trait and skill to have, is that we can evaluate ourselves and like kind of the things that we do. We're not perfect, you know, and so we have to do that. So here's some recruitment ideas. These may not pertain to your campus. Some of these, please disregard that actually applies to some of the West Virginia University pieces, but they may have some effect here. So of course, maybe you have informational sessions. Maybe you can create a brochure. You know, instead of that 30-minute elevator speech, maybe you have a brochure or a postcard to send somebody, to give somebody. Like, hey, Taylor Organization, some more information on our website. Here's our social media information. Here's kind of a quick snapshot of who we are and what we do. Here you go. You know, I think that's really important to have. I say you need to develop a slideshow, a photo display, or kind of video. I think those are really becoming really critical in these days, like video, YouTube, you know, different social media videos are really important. I think those are being used more than ever, and I think that's kind of where we're heading. Set up informational tables in high traffic areas. Ignore the examples; those are actually on my campus. Set up a table at the fall spring org showcase. Do you guys have org fairs here? So making sure that you're a part of that. I know a lot of organizations come to me and say, hey, Tane, I forgot to sign up. Can we get a table? You missed the deadline. We only have a certain amount of spots here. So, you know, how many organizations do you have here? Like 150?
130.
130.
Right now.
130, yeah. Is there, so do 130 participate in your org fair?
Not always.
No.
They have like the chance to, but usually no.
Yeah. So those are missed opportunities. When your organization does not sign up for those opportunities, then you miss out on that. You know, and so set up a table. Make sure that you're consistent. Make sure your members are present. Like, I get it. We have classes, we have other obligations, but this has to be important. And if you miss this opportunity, you can't be mad that you missed this opportunity. You know, and then ask each of your members to bring a friend to your next meeting. You know, that bring a friend model. You know, hey, bring a friend to your next meeting. Maybe have some pizza. Maybe have, you know, something. You know, that's gonna, you know, attract those people. Like I said, make an announcement to your organization about at classes and different programs. And so if you attend different classes, if you're intentional about going into the freshman seminar class, talk about your organization, invite them to the next program or next interest meeting or whatever you're having. Or if you attend somebody else's event, hey, just go to the organizer, like, hey, do you mind if I say a little quick something about my organization tonight and invite some people next week to our meeting? You know, just have that conversation. That's where the networks come into play, right? So if I know the CAP president and I go to their event and they have like a movie on the lawn and say, hey, you mind if I say a quick message before we start the movie? Absolutely, you know. And those are, I think, is where your relationships will go. Reach out to faculty and staff. I mean, those are some of your champions, your advocates as well. Maybe they can make those announcements at their class. You don't even have to be there, you know, if you reach out to some of those. And get an article in the student newspaper. Do you have a student newspaper here? Yeah. Get some positive messaging out in your student newspaper. You know, whether it be, you know, digital or print content. If it's out there, it's out there. Remember that 7 to 10 times. You want people to see your messaging before it kind of like resonates and really commits to their memory. Here's some more recruitment ideas. Make personal contact and be honest about your organization. Don't glorify your organization to the point where there's going to be a lot of empty promises. They're like, oh yeah, you know, we go on these trips and we go, and then they get an organization like, I haven't gotten to go anywhere yet. You get to go to all these trips, but I don't get to do nothing. You know, especially like when Kat goes to NACA. How do I get to go to NACA if I'm just a general volunteer? Well, those are the parts you missed out in telling me. Like, hey, we went to Columbus. Next year we're going to Denver. You know, year after that we're going to another place. Yeah, that's cool. Come in our organization. We get to travel. But you forget to mention that, oh, you have to be on the executive part of the board, or you have to be on this, or there's an application process. Like, we can't take everybody in the organization. Same thing with MSG. Oh, we get to go to this Student Government West Conference this summer in Phoenix, you know, at Arizona State. You know, oh, that's cool. How do I get to go? Oh, we've already selected the people. You know, so I think it's important to be honest about your organization. By the way, if you're going to where you're going to stay, I'll see you there. Hold recruitment events with free food, maybe, if you can afford it. I think it's really important to hold recruitment events. If you can have some free food, even if it's just cookies and punch or something, I think it goes a long way. Creating your website and utilize your social media sites are important. Post flyers. Are you allowed to post flyers here? Okay, post flyers. Keep organizational contact information up to date on your database. So you guys have OrgSync here, right? So make sure all that information on OrgSync is up to date. I know you're about to switch to Engage as well, which is, we have it on our campus, and it's good. It's not, it's different from OrgSync in a little ways, but it'll be fine. But making sure all that stuff is up to date. Make sure that if somebody sends you a message in OrgSync, you can respond back. Don't just leave a bunch of messages there that you don't respond to. And that's part of your branding. That's part of saying, we don't care about people that reach out to us. And that's gonna be your brand to them. They're like, dang, they didn't even respond to my message. I was really interested in these organizations. They won't even respond back to me. Volunteer at events and wear your organization's t-shirt. So like Move In. I don't know if they allow you to wear your organizational t-shirts at Move In. So maybe your organization volunteers for Move In. Do y'all do Move In here? Like helping Move In? Yeah, so yeah. So wear your organizations that way when that student, like if you're helping them in, like, hey, what's MSG? I see MSG on your shirt. What does that mean? You can be able to, bam, elevator speech right there to their parents and them. You know, is there like family weekend or siblings weekend or, you know, all those kind of things. That's when you need to be volunteering and putting your message out. Be friendly, approachable, and knowledgeable. I think those hopefully are common sense. You know, we all have our days. We all have our days where we don't want to be bothered. But at the same time, you are no longer just you. You are you in that organization to people's eyes. So always make sure you're knowledgeable, you're approachable, you're friendly. You don't want to have that kind of stigma against your organization. All right, retention. So once you actually get those members, how do you retain them? So I have a theory that we're going to use called GRAPE. The GRAPE theory of motivation. So GRAPE stands for growth, recognition, achievement, participation, and enjoyment. So I believe that if you subscribe to these concepts, that will help you with your retention of your organization. The GRAPE method, okay? The GRAPE theory of motivation. All right. So growth. What is growth? So growth is the opportunity to give members the opportunity to grow as a person. Like I don't want to just join this organization just because I want to join it because it's fun, but I also want to grow, right? I want to work with others. I want to learn new skills. I want challenging assignments, challenging duties. And so what I mean by that is not giving your new members the trivial task of doing the things that you don't want to do. Like, hey, new members, can you go post all these posters on all the bulletin boards? And you just kind of sit in the office and kind of hang out. You know, like you don't want to give tasks away just because they're new and because you don't want to do them. You want to give them things that are going to empower them and get them invested into your organization, right? It's really important to do that. Recognition, the R. Recognizing people for what they have done and show appreciation. As we said yesterday, thank you goes a long way. I think a lot of people take for granted that people are here to volunteer their time. So like it could be the smallest thing, like you move that table over there because I asked you to because we need a table for food. Oh, thanks for moving that table. I really appreciate you. That goes a long way. At the end of a long day, a lot of people are just like, "Ooh, I'm glad that's over." But you forget the small thank yous and the small appreciative things that you do. You know, have you ever thought about sending your caterers a small thank you? You know, or whoever has helped with that event, collaborators, sponsors, co-sponsors. Recognition is really important. And how are you recognizing those people on a consistent basis? Achievement. So working together so that everyone has a sense of accomplishment. You know, like giving them assignments and tasks that have a goal and an end in mind. And once they reach that, they can feel like, I feel like I've accomplished something. You know, maybe you do have a marketing director that creates a nice poster for you. You know, and that poster goes out and they're just kind of well received. You know, and so make sure that those people feel like they have some tangible kind of accomplishments that they can kind of celebrate with the organization. It's really important to do that. Participation. Everyone needs to be socialized and everybody wants to be involved. So you want to incorporate social components to your meetings. Like who runs policy procedure for the most part of the meetings? Probably just MSG, more than likely. Everybody else kind of is more informal. So maybe you build in something like a social hour, you know, maybe you build something after the fact. Maybe, hey, we're all gonna go to dinner after the fact. You know, you want everybody to show that they're part of the team. You know, you just don't say, hey, exec board, we're gonna go to have some drinks. Everybody else, we'll see y'all later, you know. Making sure that everybody feels like they're participating. And then the last one is, and great is enjoyment. Have fun. You guys are all students, you know. Yes, it's definitely serious business about your organization, but a lot of times we forget to have fun. We get to let our hair down and really go out and just, you know, have a good time. Enjoy what you're doing. Hopefully you're passionate about the organization that you're in. And that passion will show through your excitement and your enjoyment about talking about your organization to others, you know. I think it's really important to do that. Any comments about great? Are you guys mostly doing some of these things, just maybe not just on paper, you have it kind of structured? But it's really important that, you know, you may do these, but like, it's really important to kind of make sure that they're organized in a manner that, so when you pass these down, we'll talk about transition in a little bit, that it kind of continues, you know? There's a blueprint to what you're doing. All right. Other retention ideas, provide membership training, you know? Provide those opportunities where people are gonna learn. So maybe there's a shadowing program, maybe the MSU president, you know, you have like an intern or you have somebody that wants to shadow you, like teach people how you're doing your positions. Just because you look at a job description or a position description does not mean you know everything that is entailed with that position. You have to understand the like little ins and outs about some positions. It just happens that way. So provide membership training, allow people to develop within themselves, develop for the organization. It's really important. So maybe when you do go to conferences, maybe it's not just all the exec board. Maybe you can take some general members so they can learn and kind of be in that conversation, right? I think it's important. Maybe provide some member mentor programs, you know, because this way, hopefully, you know, like you have internship programs within your organization. You have a mechanism where people kind of are assigned to certain people and they're mentors within their organization. Just an idea, you know. Learn new members' names. That's really important. You guys are in a very small, knit community in general, but there are probably opportunities where you don't know everybody's name in your organization. That's a bad thing. I don't care how big your organization is, you need to know every name, if possible. And then help them learn others, you know, help them learn everybody else's name. I think it's really important, and the name, knowing somebody's name goes a long way. Because there are a lot of times people, you know, say my name completely wrong. They'll call my office and my students are like, and I told them how to kind of dictate whether I take the call or not, if I'm available. If you pronounce my name Tane, I know they know me, you know, because you look at my name, you don't have to pronounce it at all when you see it, right? But if they say, can I speak to Thane, Danha, whatever you see, that person doesn't know me. And I think it goes a long way. So if you remember somebody's name, I guarantee, like, wow, you know my name, that's kind of cool. It goes a long way. Learn your name. Compliment good work. You know, you want to celebrate all your good work. Have retreats. I think retreats are fun. It's an opportunity for your organization to kind of bond and build that community amongst yourself. Reward good effort. I think we've already talked about that. Maintain a regular scheduled meeting schedule. So don't move your meeting around. I definitely recommend that you keep a constant meeting schedule. If it's going to be every Sunday at 5 o'clock, it's going to be every Sunday at 5 o'clock. New members or new potential volunteers or new potential members, they need to understand consistency. So if I'm interested in the organization, you say you meet every Sunday. If on Worksync you say, hey, we meet every Sunday at 5 o'clock, feel free to join us anytime. And if I come on Sundays at 5 o'clock and you're not meeting, and Walker 247, then I have a problem. Like, dang, but you don't put out messaging. So it's smart, but oh, this week we had to move our meeting to this date and this time because of such and such. Well, how you communicate that message out there, you know, be consistent. Initiate social interactions, like I said, like, you know, small gatherings, different contests. Recognize individual achievements. So if one of your members gets an award or some kind of scholarship or get some kind of achievement outside of your organization, recognize them at a meeting. You know, say, hey, I want to bring up Michelle. Michelle just won a big scholarship for grad school for next year. You know, congratulate her. You know, those are the kind of things that make us feel good. Allow for new challenges is another one. Hopefully our membership is growing in the sense that they're gonna challenge what we do, and that's okay. It brings a fresh perspective that makes sense for us to kind of think about those things. And like I said, provide chances for all members to give input and feedback. This is not a dictatorship. The executive board is not the end all be all. Your members should have input, and their input should be incorporated in some of the things and things that you do. It should inform how you operate. And should be pushed to you all. Any other ideas about retention? What are some of the creative things you all do for retention? Anything that stands out that you do that's really cool that you want to share with the group? No? Yeah, go ahead.
Recognition wise, connect with something, so like we have 8 big events this school year, so
Mhm.
after every event, we do something called the Handy Helper.
The handy
And
helper?
we, it's like a traveling toolbox that we fill with candy and stuff for the committee member that does the best in that committee.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. In my staff meeting, we actually passed out a bobblehead. It's kind of a Mount Air bobblehead. And so we always recognize it has to be passed on to every meeting. And so I have a staff of 14 people. And so we pass the bobblehead and commemorate good work to others weekly in our staff meetings. And so every staff meeting, somebody new gets the bobblehead. And they have to find out, and that allows them to connect with other people in our areas. And so they kind of, like, hey, I didn't know you were watching me. Yeah, I've been watching you. It's been pretty cool to watch. And so do those things. Do small things like that, and I guarantee you start to kind of set a different kind of tone for your own community, okay? So beyond retention, let's talk about delegation. This first statement, I think resonates with a lot of people, but maybe one word less. If you want it done right, you don't have to do it yourself. A lot of people probably read this more as, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. I think I polled you all yesterday. For the most part, you guys agree with this statement. So it's really important to delegate. I still struggle with this as a professional. There are a lot of times I have to put trust in others that I know it's going to get done. Even though I know if I do it, it's going to be right in the manner that I want to see it. Right? But I think it's really important to start delegating things and trusting in others. So if you want it done right, you don't have to be the one to do it. You don't. And I think it's about part of that membership training, right? Providing the opportunity for folks to learn and grow from the things that they do. Like, no one likes to join an organization just to do nothing. I don't want to just join the drama club and I can't participate in anything. Why am I just sitting here? Why do I keep getting the task of putting up posters? I don't get to do anything cool or fun, right? You need to help spread responsibility amongst members. You have to. I know it's hard, but you have to. Okay? It empowers others. All right. So there are 6 steps to effective delegation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want you got to prepare beforehand. Like, you have to plan. You can't just spur the moment and start delegating things. You want to make sure that you prepare beforehand. I think it's really critical to clearly define tasks. You have to define the task to be completed. Like, otherwise, you just don't know. Be specific. So say, hey, can you have the website up by next Monday? Okay, that's nice, but what do you want on the website? Be specific. Say, hey, can you update the website with our new interest meeting next week? Such and such should be able to get you the marketing by tomorrow. Be specific. Ask the person to whom you are delegating to repeat the information back to you to ensure that they fully understand. So if you're the person getting the task, well, okay, let me clarify. Let me make sure that I'm doing what you want, what you need. So you want me to put the flyer on our website by Monday, and the flyer is going to come from Joe Advertisement. Yes, exactly. Cool. I'll have it up by Monday at 5 o'clock. Well, no, I need it by 12. Okay, Monday at 12. So you just got to make sure that you're having those conversations, not just saying, just passing on and delegating tasks without giving the right information, because you're not setting them up for success. Clearly outline the time frame. So give a deadline. Saying I need this up by Monday or I need this by next Friday. So please be mindful of that. And then I think this is really important. Define the level of authority they are to use with this task. What do I mean by that? Authority, level of authority. What do you think I mean by that? When you assign somebody a task, what levels of authority do you think you should be giving them, or what levels of authority should you be considering? Let's use that example I just used. So if I need the poster put up on the website by Monday, what level of authority am I giving you? Okay, let's go through it.
Like on social media?
Yeah, on your website, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess you're kind of giving them a little bit of the media task, and then I guess the responsibility to, actually have what you need on the poster, and I guess whatever the poster is for, like, to promote it, and if they need help, then it's kind of their job to ask people, so they kind of are the head of that task.
Okay. Cool. So, in a little bit more broader terms, here are the levels I'm talking about. Levels 1, 2, and 3. So level 1 is the authority to recommend. So that means I'm not giving you the authority to actually make a decision. So if you don't like the poster, you can't just say, I'm not putting the poster up. You're gonna say, hey, I recommend that we rethink this poster and rethink putting this on our website right now. That's authority to recommend. Level 2 is the authority to inform and initiate. What does that mean? It means that I need to inform my executive board that this poster is trash, right? And so, however, I will initiate based on their response. So I'm saying, hey, on Sunday night, I'm saying, I am still planning to post a flyer by 12 o'clock tomorrow. However, I think this poster is horrible and it is not reflective of our identity or brand. So you can start to get, but you still don't have the authority to act. However, if I say, hey, I give you full authority to post this poster and do what you feel is right, you have the authority at that point to say, I'm not posting this. Take it back to the marketing person saying, we need this redone. Communicate with the executive board saying, this is what I've done. That is level 3 authority. Okay? So you have to be able to determine what level of authority are you actually giving to these tasks that you're delegating. It's really important. Okay? You want to identify some checkpoints when you meet with this person regularly. Where will you review the progress? How do you want this information relayed? Is it via email? Is it via text? And then maybe some suggestions. Maybe at the beginning you meet really regularly. Towards the end, it's a little bit less frequent. Because at that point the messaging has been kind of consistent, things of that nature. And then at the end, of course, you want to hold a debriefing session to discuss how it went. That way you can learn about your leadership style as well. So you're learning how I delegate, and then how do I get better at delegating. If my information or my communication isn't clear, and they tell you they give you that feedback, you need to take that wholeheartedly and make your adjustments. Okay. And then at the same time, you give them feedback about their process and things of that nature. So that's kind of delegation in a nutshell. And so we're going to talk about transition a little bit. This is kind of the final stretch. The why. I don't think people, when you look at officer transition, we talk about a consistent brand. I don't think we think of that, right? So despite the change in officers and goals, the mission and vision of the organization will stay the same. That's what we have. In your constitution, you have a mission of your organization, and the vision of the organization should be the same, even though your officers and goals are different. They're changing, right? So as president of the MSG or president of CAB or president of Drama Club or Connect, your president may have a different goal in mind. However, the mission is still the same. And so we have to think about that brand. You want to make sure the organization keeps progressing. You don't want to always be stagnant and doing the same things over and over. Affirm the new board is fully prepared to take over the organization for the next year. And so what tasks are you taking, or what steps are you taking to make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves into? You want to provide support and advice for every position. And then you want to create a sense of confidence in the incoming officers. That's really important to create that confidence in them. Because I think it's a scary thing when you're stepping into a role that you never held. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the president of this organization. That's a lot of responsibility. Am I going to live up to what people expect? And I think part of that is developing, this brand. So everybody kind of understands the brand and consistency of that organization. So if the Latinx organization is always thought as really professional students that do A, B, and C, and this next group of folks come in and try D, C, D, E, and F, it may not work out, right? And so being consistent in your brand, how you transition these folks is really important. So prior to leaving your office, I think it's important to create a checklist. And this is kind of the checklist that I've kind of created for transitional transition in student organizations in general. A, let's update your constitution and bylaws. Really important. So if there's some inconsistencies or just really bad bylaw writing and really bad constitutional writing, get those things changed. For the most part, I think the only organizations that bylaw that may have to even go before the student body is probably MSGs, right? Everybody else has the full authority to kind of change your bylaws however you see fit. And your constitution. Change it to make sure it's consistent. Make sure the job descriptions and any other relevant documents reflect changes made during the previous year. Make sure these are consistent. Make sure the job descriptions or the position descriptions are consistent with what your organization needs, okay? Also, you want to review your activities, programs, how each work's executed, and really be able to pass that on. And maybe it's folders, maybe it's a Google Drive, maybe it's whatever kind of shared document system that you may have. Maybe it's all in WorkSync, and it has yearly folders that you can go in and see. Review those. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, I promise. However, you do want to progress, and so you want that kind of historical perspective and context. All right. We already talked about this. Review your membership recruitment. How successful was it? These are things you should have done already. If it wasn't successful, what are you doing to change that? And then review your goals, where they met, and how can they be carried out into the next year. And so, are there lingering things that you didn't want to, that you didn't get done this year that you hopefully the next administration will take that on as one of their goals for next year? Those are things that you have to consider. You still write that. And I'm gonna send you this presentation, by the way. You don't have to write. I'm gonna resend this. Make sure it's in the Dropbox that Ebony has before I leave. Other things on the checklist. Set up meetings with each officer and their successors. So hopefully the president meeting with the previous president, hopefully the incoming vice president meeting with the previous vice president, treasurer, recruitment chair, whatever positions you have, hopefully they're able to meet. Set up that meeting. Make sure that they're actually having a conversation. For treasury purposes, set a time to go to the bank to transfer accounts. If you use on-campus accounts, set a time to go meet with your accounts professional here, or account specialist. I don't know how you're set up here, but however you set up with financial things, making sure that the new person comes in and understands those policies and procedures for financial consideration. Okay, if you have to go to MSG for funding, teaching them, maybe meeting with the MSG treasurer, those kind of things. Keep your organization advisor in the loop on everything. I tell students this all the time. You are here for 4 years. I'm here beyond that, and before that. So I have a lot of historical perspective, but then I also have the information I can pass on to your next person. So if you include me in the conversation and CC me on all the emails and things of that nature, I now have a better understanding of what's happening. I'm not dictating what happens. I'm just this kind of information bank for you to be able to pass on. So if last year you guys spent $1,000 or $500 on this project because it's A, B, and C, and I'm like, hey, I'm looking back on the thing. I'm like, why did we spend $500 in the fall last year? Oh, it's because of this, this, and this. Okay, that makes sense. Can we do that again? Absolutely, whatever you want to do. So make sure they're looping on everything. Be sure that the incoming officers are informed about updating the registration on the WorkSync or in your future Engage. Making sure that they understand and go to the proper trainings for WorkSync and Engage. Making sure they have the system and how to access it, how to use it, all those kind of things. It's important to really take them through those steps. Hopefully it's kind of just a natural progression that they've used it before. It's just showing them how maybe your organization utilizes it maybe a little bit differently. Okay. I think it's really important to have a transition meeting. So here's the sample meeting agenda that I've created for that transition meetings. You want to make sure that you're welcoming, providing introductions to everybody, because not everybody has, probably met everybody. You want to go over general policies and procedures. So you want to talk about the incoming, outgoing officer one-on-ones, go over the job description and expectations. You want to review your budget and other funding, maybe the SGA grant information. And then also give an opportunity to share experiences and advice. Have that kind of, that kind of powwow where like you're sharing what your experience was with that organization and what I wish I knew before I took office. You can even create a document that people fill out. I wish I knew this before I became this position in this organization. So that way you can help them monitor pitfalls and all those kind of things. Okay. And discuss ongoing projects. So if there's some ongoing projects that you really suggest that they continue moving forward, whether it be maybe a campus safety issue, maybe it be some kind of other policy that the institution is trying to create or something like that, continue to make sure those ongoing projects are discussed. And at the end, create a goal setting session. That way everybody can kind of be on the same page about goal setting and things of that nature. And then it really sets up the next administration for kicks them off kind of, And for some organization, you may be changing seats, whatever it may be, you go through your proper protocol for that. And so this is your transitional meeting. I also recommend making a transitional binder for each position, and these are the kind of things that you can include in it, whether it be, of course, a copy of the Constitution, position description, list of committees, financial records, meeting minutes, examples of flyers, the social media logins. Please share that with the right people. I know a lot of groups like, I don't have a login, so they end up changing their whole social media account. Now you lost all the followers that you had. I think there are some ways of contacting Instagram or some of these social media companies and getting that changed around, but sometimes it's almost difficult. Currently, my student government at West Virginia University has three Twitter accounts because the person that was in charge of their social media moved off to somewhere and we couldn't get in touch with them, so it's just stuck there. So don't have that happen to you. Also, a calendar of events for planning purposes. Include some of these things in the transition binder. And so that's pretty much it for transition. I just wanted to kind of reiterate the 5 exemplary practices: model the way, inspire to share vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, encourage the heart, and that's pretty much the end. Feel free. My social media is on here, and my email account is on here as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I will respond back, I promise. Are there any questions for me per se about transition and recruitment and retention in general that you want to ask me? Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. I think it's just about organizing the information that you have. A lot of organizations have these kind of things. They just don't organize it in a manner that is digestible for the next administration. So, no questions? All right, thank you for your time. Have a good break. I think you have a break until 10:30, right?